Let's talk about what I think is a series of headlines, but the number one story, and that Michael Flynn, it looks like he's heading toward exoneration. Let's bring in Brett Tolman right now, former U.S. attorney from Utah, former federal prosecutor, holed up in a lovely cabin, but able to stay all over this story that's breaking over in Washington. First off, Brett, if people on the look at this case and aren't as involved as we are and have the chance to get to know Michael Flynn and what kind of character he is, he's got great character. They say, wait a second, he admitted to lying, cut a deal, reversed his course, now he's exonerated. These are a series of things that are rarely linked to each other. What do you say to them?
Well, I say finally prosecutorial discretion was used properly. This case is troubling, and not for perhaps just the fact that they went after an innocent man. What's troubling is it's the first time many of us have seen at the highest levels of the Department of Justice and at the FBI an effort to work together, knowing there was no basis for an underlying investigation, and sending agents in, basically weaponizing their ability to take someone down. And that's what it looks like, is a concerted effort at the highest levels. I never thought I'd see that in my lifetime.
It's unbelievable. It really is. Now, Jim Comey and Andrew McCabe, of course, they don't agree with this. They're calling it politics. They both tweeted. Jim Comey said the DOJ has lost its way, but career people, please stay because America needs you. The country is hungry for honest, competent leadership. And then Andrew McCabe tweeted this. Or he released the statement. He said, today's move by the Justice Department has nothing to do with the facts or the law. It is pure politics designed to please the president. Does the evidence that we have seen, though, does it prove that these guys, it's not just politics? The truth is that Flynn is innocent?
Yeah, I mean, let's back up just a bit, because Jim Comey, my message to Jim Comey is he should keep his mouth shut right now. And Andrew McCabe as well. And the reason I say that is the Inspector General has already found there were misrepresentations, omissions, leaking that occurred by those two individuals in the Department of Justice and the FBI. The politics that was being played was utilizing an FBI interview where you don't follow policy, you don't warn the target that you're there investigating them and they're entitled to have a lawyer present. And then when AG Barr says that it was a trap, it was a trap. The cryptic notes are at least good enough to tell us that they weren't asking the question, what's our goal if he lies? They asked the question, what's our goal to get him to lie? To take down a sitting national security advisor. And why? Because they had to have it in order to justify what they were trying to do with FISA and the investigation of this president.
Brett, when you think about what you just said, you know, we heard in Griff's report that apparently Sally Yates, the Deputy Attorney General for the United States of America, was in the Oval Office, and Barack Obama told her about the call between Flynn and the Russian ambassador. This was during the transition. This was before the inauguration. The President of the United States knew about this. And we have heard the current President of the United States say that, you know, he had a feeling it went really high up in the West Wing. How high would it have had to have gone? I mean, if right now Donald Trump, his Department of Justice or FBI had this kind of operation against Joe Biden, certainly the Attorney General would know, and probably the President, right? So how much do you think the Obama administration, and as high up did it go in the chain of command?
Before this is all over, I think you're going to see that there was direct communication from the president at the time, President Obama, indicating or directing the Justice Department. Sally Yates may be key to this, we don't know. Directing the Justice Department to pursue an investigation of an incoming president. Take a step back and look at the alleged misconduct by, yeah, it's unbelievable. Take a step back and look at the misconduct that they're alleging Flynn committed. He is the national security advisor to the incoming president. The Obama administration left a Trojan horse for them by issuing some sanctions, questionable sanctions, So the ambassador of Russia wants answers, doesn't want the sanctions, wants to know what is the next administration going to do. Flynn indicates that he is going to look into it, that the administration will properly look at what occurred. What they didn't want was to have an incoming president undo anything that the existing administration, the Obama administration, had done. So in order to do that, you have to operate at the highest level in order to reverse that course or to take down a sitting president that they don't like and they don't think is going to do what they wanted done.
And it's so true. And by the way, if you want to continue your policies, Hillary Clinton had to win the election. When she didn't, they had to come up with a plan B. This looks like their plan B. And just quick, before we move on, Jeff Jensen was the U.S. attorney reviewing the Flynn case who made the recommendation to AG Barr. It's hard to imagine him being political. We'll move on. Let's talk about the Russia probe and the release of transcripts that reveal what went on behind closed doors for the last 2 years as 53 interviews go into the public. And another satchel of interviews are about to go public if we're to see what Rick Grinnell had with him yesterday and Ed Henry's reporting. But what really stuck out with me and maybe everybody was James Clapper, the former DNI. Here's what he said in July 2017 to that council. I never saw any direct empirical evidence that the Trump campaign or someone in it was plotting, conspiring with the Russians to meddle with the election. Isn't that interesting? He's getting paid a lot of money, I imagine, on CNN and said the exact opposite. Let's watch him.
If there wasn't active collusion proven, then I think what we have here is a case of passive collusion.
Do you agree with Andrew McCabe that it's possible that the President of the United States, the President, is a Russian asset?
Well, the way I completely agree with the way Andy characterized it, that it is a possibility, and I would add to that, caveat that, whether witting or unwitting.
After the Helsinki performance and since, that I really do wonder whether the Russians have something on him.
What a great case officer Vladimir Putin is. He knows how to handle an asset, and that's what he's doing with the president.
Your thoughts on the James Clapper under oath as opposed to the James Clapper on television?
The thing that's the most frightening to me is they wanted a narrative to be true. And so they spoke about that narrative, they pressed that narrative, they convinced people of that narrative, all while they had no facts to justify it. That's a scary kind of use of power. And in our intelligence community, in our Department of Justice, in our investigative community, in the FBI, the fact that they're willing to use their power to eventually convince nearly half the country of something they knew to not be true in order to attack a president they didn't like, that's the scariest coup attempt I can think of, because they do it under the guise of law.
It is so frightening. When you hear him, when he's speaking under oath in front of this Intelligence Committee, the House Intelligence Committee, and then he goes on national television over and over and over and says something totally different, it just shows the people that are in charge what their mission was. And is this evidence that they didn't like this president being elected? So they thought, we're going to abuse our power, and we're going to try to, like you said, a coup. We're going to try and throw him out. What was their backup plan?
Right.
What if they succeeded?
I don't think they had one. That's right. They believed the ends would justify the means no matter what. They fell for all of the hype and the press, pushing Hillary Clinton to be president. All of this would have been covered. It would have been a dark chapter that would be difficult to illuminate and to have transparency. And now we finally might have some transparency, because people are realizing that you had no results in the Mueller investigation. The Russia collusion fell apart. Prosecutions seem to be utilized in order to justify their behavior are now falling apart. So you have an attempt by individuals in this country to take down, because they think they're smarter than everyone else and they're to be trusted, but not who the voting public put into office. That is frightening, Ainsley, and I agree with you that we have to be on guard going forward.
It's frightening that you would refer to it as a coup attempt, just saying. Let's switch gears. Let's talk a little bit about where we are regarding the pandemic. Today in Texas, they are officially allowing barbershops and salons to open. But about 10 days ago, Shelley Luther decided, you know what? I'm out of money. I'm going to have to reopen. She got a cease and desist order. She tore it up. She was ordered jailed. Yesterday, the governor of the great state of Texas signed an executive order, freed her, as did the Supreme Court. She was on with Sean Hannity last night and talked about her decision to open the doors despite the governor's, despite the guidelines that said she had to keep closed till today.
I just woke up one day and I said, I have to open. My stylists are calling me. They're not making their mortgage. I was at right now, I still am not caught up. I'm 2 months behind on my mortgage. And my stylists were telling me that they wanted to, you know, what do you think if I go underground and go to people's houses? And I just said, you know, that's not a good idea because we can't control the environment there. We don't know if it's been disinfected or anything like that. And I just decided I would open to create a safe place for the stylists and to make sure that I wasn't the reason they weren't making money.
Brett, it's a tough decision. I mean, she had a choice. The judge said, you want to apologize? You want to go to jail? She said, I had to work. I will go to jail. And she did until yesterday. Your reaction quickly?
Yeah, I mean, there's inconsistency that is outrageous. Home Depot can remain open, and yet we somehow exercising our police power to come down on the very individuals that need it the most. So I'm glad to see what the governor did, and I hope that this starts to send a message across the country to preserve our constitutional rights rather than infringe on them.
Yeah, and then they did act yesterday. The governor said you no longer can jail somebody for any of these pandemic responses, so no one's going to jail again. Thanks so much, Brett Tolman. I appreciate it.
Thank you.